So the annoying thing. All right, let's officially start the class because I'm going to start talking bullshit now. And
Love it.
okay.
So Pink Floyd of you. Okay.
How was the sound on that? Did it shut itself off because of sound canceling, noise
Yeah,
canceling?
did not hear
Yeah,
it.
I did not hear a single thing.
You did not hear a single thing. Well, I will go in and edit my audio settings to turn off sound canceling.
Yeah, we really want to hear the bell, to be honest with you.
Where is that? Okay, I'll just put it on low. And
Very nice, Bob. Thank you.
better?
There we go.
Very good.
Okay, perfect. Now you might even hear me fart.
Well, that would be wonderful.
I need to be looking forward to this all day. So before I start the class, let me pimp a new book I got, in case any of y'all haven't seen this yet.
Ooh.
Ooh, it's a no starch book,
Nice.
and it's filled with like random cross sections of random components.
Oh, nice.
I saw it. It had so many cool images.
Like stuff that you would never actually take apart yourself and look at the internals of. I
Right.
strongly recommend it for someone like us.
Yeah, okay.
And if anybody else shows up, like where the fuck is Spud?
Yeah.
Oh, he's traveling, isn't he?
Yeah.
He said something about traveling, like going to Boston or something.
I think so.
Right.
To listen to
Lyra's
the
not
Dropkick
coming.
Murphys.
And you know, the other people that never show. Oh, and Imperius can't make it tonight.
Right.
And Grim can't make it tonight, I guess.
Okay.
So it's just us.
Sad times.
We have this class all to ourselves.
That's great. It's wonderful because I don't
which
know what I'm doing.
really lightens the pressure on me. This is great.
Yeah.
Okay. So the one thing I don't like about KiCad is the way that it opens new windows for everything, which means I can't share all of my windows unless I share my whole screen.
Okay.
Do I really want to share my screen?
Yeah, I think it's going to be necessary for us to really, because we're going to be probably watching back and trying to keep up with all the windows.
And there is a lot of screens shifting. So
I would recommend the whole screen personally.
all right, hang on. You just want to see what porn is on my screen.
Exactly. That's really the motive.
Okay, back to the Zoom window. Did I share my screen? Can you see it?
No, we just see you.
What did I do? Oh, somehow I minimized it. Okay. Share screen. Share screen. Screen.
Okay.
Now do you see? What do you see?
We see the project files and some sort of a project in the back.
Okay. So that is what I did. And let's close that. And we'll minimize the rest of this garbage. Y'all don't need to be reading my email.
Oh.
I don't need to update my profile picture. Okay, go away. All right. So you start out in this screen, which is the last thing you opened. I went ahead and started a new project called Class KiCad. Right? And that immediately starts it off as with two files, a PCB file and a schematic file.
Can I ask how you name that? Is it class.KiCad?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
You can name it whatever you want.
Okay.
So the schematic file is schematics, circuit schematics, and the PCB file is PCB design. Braden Lane is not here to correct me, so I'm going to go ahead and say, oh, yes, he is here. Good. I'm going to go ahead and say, I don't think it matters which one you start with. I think it's a whim. It's a whim for me. Like, do I want to start with a PCB and then go to a schematic? Like, do I want to start with a shape and then put things in it? Or do I want to start with the circuit, throw them on, and then draw a shape around it? I really don't think it matters too much And Braden, you're welcome to pipe in now that I know you're here.
There you go. So you can start with either one. I will agree with that.
Yep.
However, it is generally advised to start with the schematic because that's the process of figuring out all your parts, how they're going to work together, the logic of the circuit, etc. And then the layout is the physical side of it. So you can kind of think of it, you do the virtual first and you do the physical second. But as you said, you can do it otherwise. So the question becomes, if you want to teach standard practice, you would do the schematic first. If you want to be avant-garde, you can go any way you want.
Avant-garde or badge life?
I would still start with the schematic first.
Okay. Even though I know exactly what size, sometimes I know exactly what size my PCB is going to be, and I want to go ahead and draw that rectangle first. Anyhow, let's start with the schematic first.
Thank you.
This is basic.
I have a question, Bob.
We haven't started yet. How do you have a question already?
Because I clicked on the KiCad schematic and I get a different view. I get a configure global symbol library table.
You have not imported your symbols yet?
Nope.
That was not part of your installation? Or did you say no?
I believe I said yes, but do I copy default global symbol?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And you'll have to do the same thing with footprints on the other side, but
okay.
Yes. So now you got this screen?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Do we want to go through the standards of filling out this garbage at the bottom? Or do we want to talk about navigation? Nobody's answering. We'll talk about navigation.
Okay.
So the main crust of this fun toy is placing components. So right now you have a blank slate, which is beautiful. Blank is beautiful, right? Place and then add symbol. And that should load your symbol libraries up. And it shouldn't take that long every time. And look at all these possible symbols you have of things you can put in here. So just for shits and giggles, let's pick a pick 12. Let's see. I don't know which one's good.
What is a PIC 12?
An MCU, microcontroller.
Oh, a PIC microcontroller. Okay.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite?
I would rather just do the Pico, to be honest with you. 24.
You probably don't have a symbol for a Pico.
But
So-
we do have symbols for neopixels.
That's great. So we'll use those. But you probably do not have. Well, you could go with an ESP8266. You're familiar with that, right?
Mm-hmm. Is there a reason? May I ask how we might bring in the Pico schematic?
We will get to that.
Okay.
Yeah, that comes later. This is basic navigation. We're not starting on designing anything yet,
Okay.
right? But that is part of the process is learning how to bring in symbols and footprints from outside because not everything is included in this little world, right?
Okay.
And sometimes you can't find the thing you want, but that's a whole nother module. We're not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
So you click on it. Oh, look, now I have it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably looks like crap on your screen, doesn't it?
Yep.
Click where you want it, and there it is. Okay.
Yep.
I'm not super familiar with the 8266 layout, but we can throw a NeoPixel on there just for kicks. Add symbol again. Where's the NeoPixel under LED?
I think if you just type in neopixel in the filter, you should
There
be
you
able to
go.
find it.
NEO. Hey, look at that. That's a
Yeah.
through hole NeoPixel. Let's go with the 2812. 2812B. So we like those, right? Double click on it. Drag it over here.
Yeah.
Hover over it.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Control C for copy. Yeah. Control C and then Control V, just like a Word document, right? For copy and paste.
Question for you. I'm selecting it in Control C and it's opening up the choose symbol.
Don't click it. Just hover over it and hit Control C.
Oh, I see.
A lot of the controls in KiCad are activated just by hovering and doing things. If you select while you're in place mode, it probably just wants you to place another thing. Yeah, it wants you to place another symbol because you're still in place mode, right? If you wanted to select it, you could go over to the right here, click the select button, and then select it.
The select, where is that again? I'm
The
sorry.
arrow in the
You
upper
can
right.
you can also hit escape to get out of whatever select mode you are in, and then select the
I see.
unit, and then you'll be able to copy paste it just by
Okay.
hitting Control V after.
Sure.
So I have a question. So this is just the raw 8266 without a board. I guess if we were, let's just pretend we were using a board, would this be the appropriate way forward? This is just a theoretic. I don't want you to do it. I just want to know, like.
If this is just a chip, this is just a chip.
Mhm.
If you want to work with a board, you're going to want the symbol for a board because it's not going to have
Okay.
all the same
Okay,
pins exposed,
got it.
like an RP2040 versus a Pico, right?
Yep.
The Pico is pretty much just going to have the GPIOs, the grounds, and a few other, the SWD and a few other things.
And these NeoPixels, are these actually through hole or is it undetermined?
There is a through hole model listed in place. If you go back here, THT means through hole.
Okay.
Through hole technology versus SMT, surface mount technology, or surface mount device, SMD.
But these would likely come manufactured when we buy the board, right? So we don't have to mess with this.
If you choose a surface mount, we'll get into that too, part
Okay.
selection, when we get to part selection. Right now, we're just covering navigation. There's a lot of things to cover,
Okay.
and I can't cover them all at once
Just
because our heads would explode.
Mhm.
But mark that question down to come back to.
Okay.
So basic wiring. So we have this. We've got some NeoPixels, right? You know how NeoPixels work, right?
Mhm.
I don't want to use this because I don't want to steer you wrong. I don't know the 8266. I don't know what the right thing to do is. But I do see GPIO ports, right?
Mhm.
They're labeled GPIO. I hope that's the right thing. It doesn't matter. We're not building this. If you click on add a wire over on the right, the fifth thing down is add a wire. And it's the thin one, not the one below it, which is add a bus. That's a whole different thing, right?
Mhm.
So then you click on the end of one of the GPIOs,
Okay.
and then you start drag. It's not even drag, just start moving away from it.
Mhm.
And you're leading a wire somewhere. Where are you leading it? You're leading it to the, and if you click anywhere, it will stop going left to right and then focus on the next leg and go right to the edge of that mark, pin out for the data in port of that first and click. So now you have a completed wire.
Okay.
You got that?
Yep.
Do you have the symbols for several LEDs and the chip on your screen?
Mhm.
Okay. So you can go from out to in, and you might want to zoom with your mouse wheel. And let me tell you, it's a lot easier to use KiCad with a mouse than with a trackpad. But I do trackpad all the time. You will get used to it if you want to do it on trackpad. But it's easier when you're zoomed in to see exactly where those points terminate. So you go from the out of that one, maybe click about here, so you have some room. Click, click, bam, right? And you know they're connected because there's no little marker. If I miss it, there's a marker on the end of each one, right? You see the little circle or square?
Yep.
And you can connect those, and bam, they're connected. So we're just making wires now, and we can make them pretty later or not. So out to in, out to in, out to in, and then we're done with that part. So you got a mess of things right now. You got a long continuous line of wire, and it's going to be hard to get power into there, right?
Mhm.
This was probably a bad choice, this chip, because this isn't the normal, what I'm used to. I'd have to actually look up what to do about power. But whatever power is,
Mhm.
what is the symbol for power? That's a symbol for power, right? Power. Okay. I don't even know if 3v3 is correct, but I'm going to pop it anyway and put it over here somewhere because I don't know where it's going to come from.
Well, how did you do that, Bob?
Okay, let's do this again. I'm sorry, I'm not talking through what I'm doing. So over here on the right, see where the right column?
Mhm.
So this is highlight wires, forget that. Add a symbol, which we've done, right? That's place a symbol. It's the same thing as going place and then symbol.
Right.
The next symbol down is the symbol, the overall symbol for all the power ports, right?
Mhm.
Click on that, and it
Okay.
brings up what kind of power, right?
Okay.
And that could either be voltage, or it could be ground, or it could be, 8,000 other things. I'm just going with what we're familiar with right now,
Mhm.
which is plus 3v3,
Okay.
right? So I'm just going to throw this over here because I don't know whether it's coming from the chip the way we do with the Pico or not.
Mhm.
Boy, that's ugly. It's supposed to be that ugly? All right. I'm not used to doing it this way at all. So we don't want to, what is, Braden? Is he still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Is VDD voltage in and VSS is ground?
Yes.
Okay. So go back to wire. Kevin, you still here?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. I lost you for a second.
Yep.
So you could go from here
Mhm.
and connect direct wires to all these VDDs,
Okay.
but it's going to get ugly real quick. You're
Right.
not going to have room to route ground to it. And this is just a drawing, so it almost doesn't matter that it doesn't look exact, right?
Mhm.
It's easier. What I do all the time is add a net label, okay? So I'll put a little extender, a little wire extender off of here to the right. Oops. Double click to end it if you don't connect it to something, right? So that was still back to add a wire and then just add a little segment of wire here,
Mhm.
right? And then I go down to here on the right, this add a net label, which is the A with the underline.
Hold on one second. Because unfortunately, my symbols are really small in my view.
I mean, I'm restraining myself.
I know.
You can zoom in with scroll, I
Well,
believe.
right, but it's the actual symbols are very large for some reason. What I'll do is move this to another monitor.
What symbols are you talking about? Your icons
Yeah,
for the symbols on the schematic?
yeah,
They're large.
yeah. They're really giant compared to yours. Yeah.
Oh, well, so zoom out.
So
If you
zoom
zoom
in.
out with the wheel,
Yeah, what it does is unfortunately it just zooms the schematic, not the.
it's not doing what mine's doing.
No.
Hmm.
I'm curious as to what you're doing.
Let me see. Refresh. Yeah, because the symbols are just giant.
Oh, somebody.
Brian, do you have any idea on preferences?
I'm sorry, I keep muting so that my dog doesn't bark on it. When you say the symbols, do you mean the icons in the toolbar on the
Yeah.
right-hand side?
And the top, yeah, they're
And the
very,
top. Okay, so it's the toolbars that are abnormally sized on your setup.
right.
There is somewhere in preferences. I don't recommend we get into it right now.
Okay.
You just suffer with it a little bit, but we
Okay.
can. Somewhere there's a preferences for the size of the icons. What operating system are you on, just so that we can?
On Windows.
Okay, that's all.
So, So is there an alternative menu selection for that thing you just said, Bob, and thanks for that, Braden. I'll check it out later.
That's all right.
Alternative, so you can't see the icons at all on your right?
I'm done at the one where there's a vertical and a horizontal with a dot, so I can't.
Yeah,
get to-
I had this problem on
Huh.
some build at some point, and might have been a different operating system or something else. But yeah, what ends up happening is if your icons are too large,
Right.
KiCad is not smart enough to scroll the toolbar or wrap it. It just simply cuts it off, and you
Right.
can't get to any of the tools that are further down on the list.
Go into preferences,
Yep.
No.
under common,
Okay. Comment.
right down here. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Icon scale.
Okay.
See if that changes it for you.
100. And then, oh, wonderful. Thank you.
That was fast.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
And let me tell you another thing. Icon theme automatic.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to be professional here and say don't do it.
Okay.
Good
My
advice.
machine, so many things are really hard to read when my laptop goes into dark mode. Like what layer of PCB I'm working on, it's really hard to tell in dark mode.
So you suggest going to light?
You'll see what happens when it happens, and you'll either fix it like I just noticed I could,
Mhm.
or you'll live with it for 2 years like I did.
Okay, and I'm sorry now. So that
No,
other
you're good.
symbol you connected was the A with the
Yes, that's called add a net label.
okay.
And a net is just a collection of connections that connect to the same thing. Okay?
Okay. And I get a
That makes
label
sense?
properties. Yep, I get a label properties pop up.
Right. So we're going to call this 3v3. And then it wants to place it just like a symbol, right?
Mhm.
And you place that so that the square on your placement touches the square on your wire. You're connecting it to that wire.
Okay.
And once you do that, if you hover over it and hit R, and hover over it and hit R again, it'll nestle itself right in there. You're basically anchoring on that square and choosing what rotation you want,
Nice. Nice.
right? So that's there's just a nice way to make things work the way you want it to.
Mhm.
So say you click, so I just clicked again and it wanted to open label properties again.
Mhm.
We don't have to do that. If we hover over 3v3, hit Control C, and then hit Control V, we have another one, right?
Okay.
And I want to hit R twice on that and connect it. Control V, paste it on each of these.
Oh, I see. Well, that's handy.
And you'll see what it does when we get to the other part, but it means you don't have to draw those routing lines everywhere.
That's really nice.
You'll still have to route them on the PCB, but you don't have to route them in the schematic and make your schematic look ugly and unreadable, right? So let me know when you're done with that. Go on. You were saying.
Just while they're doing that, so other, some more elaborate uses of this label feature that you're probably going to find over time is, for instance, if you couldn't fit all the NeoPixels really close to your microcontroller, you might have created a label called NeoPixel, and it would be attached to a GPIO pin, say on the Pico, and then it could be attached up to DIN on this, and so you could now move your NeoPixels to some other portion of your schematic away from your microcontroller in case you
Maybe
start
even
getting,
another page.
yeah, you can even go to another page. But
so let's do that. Let's. So I just hit select, and I'm hovering over this wire, and I hit delete, and that part of the wire goes away. Hit delete, that part of the wire goes away. Hit delete, that part of the wire goes away.
Wow.
So now I'm going to make a net label, Neo, and I'm going to attach it here, and then I'm going to Control C and Control V. I'll rotate it twice so that the connector's on the right, and attach it here.
That's nice.
and now you'd be able to take that whole group of NeoPixels with that label and move it someplace else on your schematic or any else you want to put it. You could even do it on another sheet. So you can start to move things around and organize things.
Says the
to make
person
it
who
more
made
easy
the
to read.
thing with the most possible LEDs of anything that's ever been made.
What was that? What was that, Bob?
Says the person who made the thing with the most possible LEDs of anything that's ever been made.
No, Jason Kuhn has that at 500. No, actually, he and I are tied at 512.
That's funny.
He's the one that makes those Fibonacci things?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, those are beautiful.
They are absolutely gorgeous.
I have one.
I have a small one that I want to embed into a coin case, but that's a different story.
I have the one that's about yay big.
Oh, nice. One thing that you will find as you start to use KiCad more and more is a lot of the commands that Bob is showing us tonight have single character keystroke shortcuts, as we call it. So for instance, instead of going over and clicking on the toolbar to start a wire, you could just hit the W key.
Oh,
Or to add a new component. So for instance, if Bob wanted to add a capacitor here, and I'm not going to ask him to do that, he could simply type the letter A, and you can go ahead and do it, Bob. You hit the letter A, and the dialog box for add a component pops up.
oh, it's handy.
And so over time, you'll find the tasks that you do a lot, it makes sense to learn the shortcut. Now, if you go over to the toolbar on the right-hand side, and if Bob hovers over one of those, you'll actually see it tells you what letter is the shortcut.
Oh,
There you go. Let's take a break for a second. And Display just mentioned that he found and was able to install the Pico symbol. And if he was able to find it and install it that quick, we can probably talk through it that quick. So Display, you want to lead that?
Sure. Just give me a second. So
While you're giving me a seconding, I'm going to delete this ESP8266.
Okay, so I posted a link in the chat. Hopefully it will be in the description of whatever. You know what? I'm gonna post it to the Discord just so everybody has access to it, but it is the KiCad RP Pico. So you open the link and you basically want to download the whole thing from GitHub. So you just click code and then there should be a button that says download zip.
Yep.
You open the zip folder that you just downloaded and you'll go into the main folder and you want to extract a library called rp-pico libraries. And then when you have extracted that, I'll give you a second to catch up. You want to go back to the main KiCad manager or the KiCad program, where not the project file, but the one where you select all of the projects. And then you'll click Preferences and Manage Symbol Libraries.
Okay, we can do a shorter way than that from here.
Oh, okay.
We can hit that from here. There's footprints, there's symbol libraries. So right here, browse symbol libraries, create, delete, and edit symbols. I think this is what we want. Let me download it because I thought I had it in this one, but I generally use my laptop for this stuff, so I don't think I do. So I'll be doing this right along with you. Into the Discord. There's the GitHub. Yes, I'm sure I want to go there. And what am I downloading? RP Pico libraries?
Yes, if you have to download the whole folder though.
Okay.
So just download the whole zip.
Now, will this bring this into the KiCad folder, or does it matter where we download it?
As long as you can access it, and remember where it is, it doesn't matter where you download it.
You have to
where you
import
put
it.
the folder.
You have to import it.
Okay,
yeah.
that's good.
All right. So back to the symbol. Now, is it already?
It's a zip, so you'll have to unpack it.
Okay. Oh man, I got so much to unpack.
Childhood traumas to unpack.
You're hurting me. What was it called?
KiCad.
KiCad dash RT.
Oh, of course
dash
it is.
Pico.
All right. Look at that.
You want to
Extract all.
Mhm.
All right. So now I got all this stuff, right?
Right. And then you want to, now that you have it extracted to somewhere.
Yep.
You'll want to open the, oh, whoops, not sure.
The
if that's
symbol
the right
editor.
one. The browser, not that one, the symbol library. Wait, no, I'm a little bit lost. Let me.
This will work.
Okay.
So if you hit the up at the top where it says create, delete, and edit symbols. See that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Click on that. File, add library. And you can either add it to just this project or globally, and I'll probably add it to globally because I care.
Okay. And then you go to RP Pico libraries, the folder that you unpacked.
Well, now I can't find it because I have too many things downloaded.
Mhm.
And it's not here. God dang it. Oh, I know why. There it is. This
Okay.
machine's a little weird.
Open that, and then open the one that says RP Pico libraries and click on that folder. That should be
All
the
right.
one.
The SYM or the pretty?
Yeah.
Yeah, the KiCad sim.
Okay.
Pretty is probably the footprints library, which we'll get to when we split over to the PCB side.
I
Okay.
believe that is correct.
So it's got both. It's got both.
Yeah. Well, I want the Pico. Let's do the Pico.
Yeah. So I'm now once you import it, save it.
Save.
Did it already save? Maybe it already saved.
And it saves it
Okay.
into the KiCad directory, right?
Yeah, it does all that for you.
Okay.
So now we'll hit A, thanks Braden. And we'll type Pico. And there's other Pico crap in here. Oh,
Should
well,
just
there
be
it
that
is. It's
Pico
right there. Look at that. We know what that looks like.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah.
Now we're back to happiness, right?
Yeah, that's great.
So now we can place this. We'll put this NeoPixel on. Oh, hover over your thing that you want to move and hit M. Nope, that didn't work. I'm still got that selected. Hover over the thing you want to move and just hit M for move, and you can just move it.
Can I ask one more question? Like to
Absolutely. You don't have to keep asking if you can ask questions.
that Neo thing. How do we do that one more time? Just to
Add library. Add net label.
at net label.
And
we'll
then
call it Neo.
the only thing you really need is the label, which is what net you're going to use.
And you called it Neo, right?
I called it Neo, and it just has to match on both sides, on every one that you want grouped together, right? Because that's what it's going to do. It's going to group those like-named labels together.
Okay, and then you place it near 4, and then how do you connect them again one more time? Just the connection.
So I'm going to move it like I'm moving it. So when you're moving it, you see that square?
Yep.
That's your anchor.
Okay.
The little square at the bottom right?
Yep.
That's your anchor. And if you want the anchor on the other side, you just hit rotate twice, R. Right? But I want the anchor on the right.
Yep.
And just bring it to the thing you want to connect it to. And if you click there and the square disappears, you know it's connected.
Okay.
You got it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now we'll take this 3v3, which we made.
So real quick, so how do I get the Neo on GPIO 20? Or
You can hover over this, Control C it, and then Control V it and drop one.
And where did you drop it on 24?
Yeah. GPIO 18.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because this, who knows? Maybe this will turn real.
When I hear, okay, question now. When I click it, it covers over the thing. Do I have to hit R to move the? Okay.
If you want.
Yeah, I see it.
So R changes the orientation of the label related to the anchor. And for pins on the right, you want the anchor on the left so it can touch the pin, right?
Yep.
If we were going to put it over here, we'd spin it around, put the anchor on the right. But we're going to put it here and click. And if the anchor goes away, you know you did right. If you want to be neater about it, I frequently like to extend these lines out like I did before, add a wire,
Yeah.
double click, and then anchor to the right.
So you can just grab the thing, move it. Okay. And also if you just grab it and move it, I think it does it as well.
You don't even have to move it. You can just rotate it in place if you're, well, yeah, if it's not anchored. It's anchored right now.
Okay.
Yeah, you could grab it if you're in select mode. I don't always pay attention to what mode I'm in, so. All right, so since we have the Pico, we're a little bit more on familiar territory for us. I'm going to move the 3v3 over to here too. Rotate it to get the anchor on the left and tie it to 3v3. Right? So now get rid of this 3v3 power port and the wire by hovering over and hitting delete.
Oh, wait, what did you do?
The 3v3 power port that I made over here,
Uh-huh.
I deleted it.
You don't need that?
I don't need it because we're getting power from the Pico now.
Oh, right. Okay.
That was an external power source because I wasn't sure how the ESP8266 would handle power. So I just put a temporary placeholder so that I have something, right?
Okay.
So now we've got the Neo tied to Neo, data in on the first, and this could be as many as you want. We have 3v3 tied to 3v3 on every one. What's missing?
Ground.
Ground. Holy shit, Kevin's learning. So what do we do?
Neo, add a net label.
Add a net label. Damn, dude. GND.
Now, I have a question
Uh-huh.
for the ground. Could you
Yep.
connect multiple of the grounds from the NeoPixels and just connect it to one ground?
We'll handle where it physically connects in PCB design.
Mhm.
But for now, all you need to know is they belong to the ground net. The ground connection is actually usually handled by a ground fill, and we'll get into that in the PCB side of things.
Okay.
So I'm Control-C to grab that so that I can put it everywhere. Control-V, 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 Control-V.
And it goes on 3.3, right?
On the VSS side. 3v3 goes on VDD, ground goes on VSS. There's other fun stuff we can do. We could do, like, if it's still too ugly, we can make buses, but we don't need to do that.
We can get into that later.
We can. So we have a basic circuit now, right? And we know this is going to work. Fairly confident this is going to work. Let's have some fun and switch over to the PCB side and look at that. You guys okay with that?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. You see the PCB icon
Make sure
up
to
top?
save it first, by the way.
All righty. I saved it. You see the PCB icon?
Yep.
Open PCB and board editor. What this does is the same thing as going back to the project view and clicking the PCB file,
Okay.
but it is connected. It's intimately connected with this schematic. So, did I click it or was I moving? All right, there we go. There's your empty PCB design. Why is it empty? Because we have not brought our parts over. So we do that with update PCB with changes made to schematic.
By the way, Bob, we'll have to add the Pico footprint as well, I think.
It will probably tell us that there's no footprint for this, right? During the import. Let's see. First thing it does is updating PCB requires a fully annotated schematic. Annotation means giving each of these devices a label. A part number, I guess is what it's called. So U ? D question mark. So that's I don't know what U stands for, but D is diode, right? Capacitor would be C, resistor would be R. So before we do anything, we have to annotate it, right? And this is where it's going to say, I don't have a footprint for this. What the hell is this, right? So oh, look at that. It has the footprint.
I don't see that. I see
Mine does.
I see one error.
What does your error say?
Let me see.
I see one error as well.
Pico
Can-
footprint?
Oh, you do as
Yeah.
well, Bob. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
it says, can I add you one? The footprint is not found.
Where's my
So,
error?
And you have, for whatever
be at the
reason,
bottom.
delete footprints with no symbols
Where do you see that?
up in the options up at the top. Should we select that?
Oh,
'Cause
neat.
mine's not selected.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
So
I don't think so. Because yeah, we do.
Actually, I do recommend you have delete footprints with no symbols.
Okay.
So it won't add the footprint into your schematic, into your PCB until you go back to your schematic and assign a footprint to the symbol.
Gotcha. All right, so hit update PCB, and I just want to see what I have.
You'll have all your diodes.
All right.
So we still have an error. Is that okay?
Yeah.
We're gonna go back. We'll go back to the schematic and we'll fix the error.
Okay.
Well, we have to import. They have to import the footprint, right?
right, and I can walk through that right now.
So up here, browse footprint libraries,
Where are you at?
or
Bob?
no, create, delete, and edit footprints. Same thing as before. Up top,
Yep.
the thing with the do not enter thing on it.
Yep.
Click on that. It's loading your footprint libraries. It's taking way too long for this fancy ass machine. Woohoo!
And it loads up the footprint editor.
Yes.
It's also loading all of the footprints into memory. It's not necessarily a wise thing to do.
Okay.
Mine doesn't usually take this long.
Mine does from time to time.
Almost
even on my brand new machine.
All right, happiness is coming.
Okay.
So same as before, file, add library,
Mm-hmm.
global. I always do global because I know I'll use something again, even if I don't think I will. And once again, find that directory.
And then you go to RPPico library, and then you select the folder this time. Go back a step. You need the
Wait.
folder.
Which one? Pretty or?
Pretty.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That select that folder, and then click the button select folder, and that should import it.
Oh.
Is this what you see? Or was this the one that was already in mine?
No, I see MCU.
think
Yep.
so.
I see that.
No, look, the Pico SMD-TH is, I think, the footprint you're looking for.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
If you just simply click on it once, I think it'll. Did you click on it?
Yep.
You double click it, I think.
No, double click. Okay, yeah. Now you can actually preview what the footprint will look like.
Okay.
Okay, so it's in. So save.
In. And close that out.
Close the editor.
Now go back to the schematic.
Oh, how do we trigger the schematic again?
Oh, sorry. Right here. This is the schematic button.
Okay. Okay.
It's a separate window, so you can also just use your operating system, to go find the other window.
Okay.
So what I usually do is right click here, and then I could edit footprint, or I could go properties. Properties is probably what I want.
Why don't I see that menu?
Why don't you see what?
That menu. What was that you just did?
I right clicked on the chip.
I'm getting a different menu.
Are you right clicking on the chip or on
Yeah,
something on the chip?
On the chip, but I only get cancel, change the label, change the text. I don't have that full window.
You sure there's nothing under the mouse other than the chip? Like there's not a label or a GPIO pin or a number? Because if you do that, then you'll get that
Yeah,
other.
you could just as easily edit the properties of anything on the chip. So make sure you oh, I'm getting it too.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting.
What did I
Okay.
I must have something selected.
Yeah. So here's a tip.
If you
As
escape
Bob
out, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. I often will just simply hit the escape key about 4 times, and that guarantees I'm not in anything.
Right.
That's good to know. That's good
It's a
to know.
really
edit
complicated
mode.
piece of software.
Yeah.
So in properties,
Mhm.
so I've got this highlighted, but it doesn't say show. I think I would like it to show, correct?
That simply says it's going to show the text of the footprint
Oh yeah, the
on your
footprint
phone. You don't
label.
really care about. And so the footprint was correctly assigned to the chip, but the footprint hadn't yet been installed into KiCad, and that's why you got the error over in the PCB layout stage.
Okay, do you guys have that? When you edit properties of the chip, do you have the footprint here?
Hold on, let me.
So I was actually able to fix this. It requires a little bit more info.
So what do we have to fix? Because I have the same thing, Bob. I have those 2 check marks.
When you in properties, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you right click this and go into properties,
Yeah.
do you see the footprint listed out here?
Yes.
You do.
Yep.
Okay.
So Bob, just so that everybody can see this, if you click on the text where it says footprint in this properties dialog box, to the right of it, there's that little, looks like a bookshelf kind of thing.
Yes.
Icon. You click that, and it will actually take you to see.
Yeah.
The footprint it was looking for wasn't in the right place.
That happens.
So now you come down and you select the footprint. If you can find it there, you got to find the peak.
Yes.
Yep.
It's for those who can't see, it's Raspberry Pi. You search that on the first column, and then you go for the SMDTH part.
And so now it is updated in the properties dialog box, the link, as it were, to the footprint that is actually on Bob's machine. Now,
and I think that's a result of I had KiCad 5 on here, and now I have 6 on here, and all hell broke loose when that happened.
Yeah,
actually, I had the same problem. I think it's because we put in the schematic first before actually putting in the footprint as well, and that kind of got it confused.
Well, it also depends on where on your computer you installed that pretty folder. So this is now connected up to on Bob's machine, that footprint, and so now he can click OK.
Save.
And if you
switch back to PCB, and then over here again, update PCB because we made changes.
Where are you at? Wait, where's update PCB?
Oh, icon. You can, by the way, you can also get to update PCB from the menu. It's under Tools. Tools, update PCB.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
Top one.
Oh, you can do both? Oh, crap. I've never seen that. That sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah. I've never gone backwards. I've only gone forward.
I think the schematic should be authoritative. I don't think you should be like updating the schematic based on crap I do on the board.
All right. If you click that, now we'll see there's no errors.
No errors.
So that means it has correctly found the new footprint. We click the update button, and it will now. Yep, there it is. And you click close.
All right, so now we have it here. And see those funky lines? What are those? Those are your suggested connections.
Ooh, it's ugly.
They're called rat's nest. And once you get a really complex schematic, you'll understand why they're called rat's nest.
Yeah, it's already complex. It's already hurting my face.
So you place it. Well, your face is hurting the rest of us, so that's only fair.
One of the reasons why it's helpful to have the rat's nest, and yes, at times it can be very, very confusing.
Oh,
but if there are certain components that by electrical design need to be in close proximity, the rat's nest help you find what those are. So as an example, often if you've got what they call a decoupling capacitor, which is a capacitor that goes between a power pin and ground, it needs to be close to that pin. And so you can follow the rat's nest to find the correct capacitor, and then you can drag it close to where it should be. So the rat's nest is going to be helpful. Also, if you think you've wired up your entire PCB, but you actually haven't, there'll be a rat's nest left over.
Yeah.
And so you can just
You'll
simply
know.
go, oh, I forgot that one. And so there it is. So
If your schematic is authoritative, as it should be, it'll tell you where you're wrong in the PCB side.
yeah, if you happen to leave something disconnected in your schematic, it will be disconnected forever in your PCB.
Oh, God.
So let's go with diode 1, right? We'll just put it up here for now. We'll just make a line of them, right?
Okay.
You can tell the GP18 is going up here, so this must be the data in pin on this diode.
Yeah.
And if you want to make it easier on yourself, you could rotate this just so that it's on the same side as this. I don't think it's a good idea. I think keep the orientation because it makes it easier at the fab house. Am I wrong there, Braden?
The fab house has absolutely, they don't care. The machine will deal with all of that automatically. Where having the orientation is beneficial is if you're hand assembling. And in that case, my recommendation is it doesn't matter whether it's upside right, upside down, turn left, turn right. But if you're doing something like NeoPixels, you want them all pointing in the same direction. Whatever direction you choose, you want them all that way. Now, in the case of NeoPixels, because they've got this whole in and out thing, they naturally lend themselves to being oriented uniformly across them. So if they're all pointing straight up, you'll notice that the ins and outs all line up, or if they're sideways, etc.
So we should rotate it like Bob did.
Well, maybe because what he's saying is maybe we rotate it this way.
Yeah.
Because the other way.
Yeah, Bob, put the next NeoPixel next. So put D2 next to D1, and you'll start to see what orientation makes the most sense.
Right.
So
also, just to point out, if you click on something, make sure you click on an empty area of it.
Yeah.
Because every component, you can click on a lot of things within the component and suddenly be moving something you don't want to move or rotating something you don't want to rotate, right? So if you make sure you're clicking the entire component, which is a blank area in the component, right?
Yeah. Thankfully with KiCad 6, and I follow Bob's instruction explicitly because I keep forgetting, but in KiCad 6, you can limit what is selectable.
Oh.
In 5, you couldn't. And so I've learned to do exactly what Bob was just saying, which is, make sure I don't click on something. As anybody who happened to have seen my "Can you spot the error" post on my Loomis stick, one label is oriented different than the other 239.
Oh, God.
Oh boy.
It doesn't make
terrible.
it. I mean, it didn't affect the electrical capability of the design, but it looks really pretty funny.
And it triggers the ADHD people, the OCD people.
Yeah, that would trigger me.
Okay. So, I messed that up. I was going for lining up the same as the schematic, just for kicks, right? And you see how that makes the rat's nest a mess, and that's what Braden was pointed out, is that it will show you how it wants to be. So if you take this and rotate it this way, take both of them, and take all of them and flip them, then it makes it a little bit cleaner-ish. If you...
Yeah, because now you've got your data out of like D1 is the upper right corner, and it's now a straight shot to data in on D2, which is lower left corner. And so now you just have that straight line from pad 2 of that one to pad 4 of that one, and then pad 2 of the next one to pad 4. So you're not having to do all sorts of weirdness to get the data in to data out working correctly.
It's still ugly to me, though.
It's ugly while the rat's nest is there. You will see how much better it looks once you start putting wires in.
Yeah. So as an example, Bob, if you go over to the left side in your toolbar over there, there is an icon, and it looks like a bunch of dots with wires connecting, or little lines connecting them up.
This one?
Up, 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 up. It's actually in blue right now. Click that one. Turns the rat's nest off. Now,
Oh,
now, Kevin, you can see it's easier. It's,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
easier on the eyes, but now
yeah,
you have no idea what to wire together.
yeah.
So if you go back and turn the rat's nest on, it becomes obvious. Oh, I've got all of these connections I need to make.
Right.
And this will satisfy the OCD in you because it's a mess now, but as you start drawing wires, the rat's nest disappears. So let's do that. Let's draw some wires over
Okay,
to
wait,
the
wait.
right.
You have those are weird. You have WS2 on top for 4 and not for the others.
Ah, so I missed some flipping.
Yeah, you didn't rotate one of them.
2 of them.
2 of them. There you go.
Okay,
All right.
so that's good. So we got six thingies, and let me move this thing out of the way here.
Okay,
All right.
Before you start wiring, we should talk a little bit about electrical properties.
But not too deep.
I'm not going to go too deep. But so, as a general rule, signal wires, so like the data, the data in to data out and all that stuff, they're not overly complex. They're not holding a lot of current, et cetera, et cetera. But our 3-volt line is actually carrying a fair amount of current, relatively speaking. So, and as you get into more complex boards, your power lines are going to be carrying more and more. So over in the menu under File.
I have a quick question. My appearance is squinched up. I'm not able to see all the layers like you have there. It's all squished together. How do I fix that?
You have to move them around.
Oh, you mean, yeah, you mean all your diodes are sitting on top of each other?
No, like the appearance window. Like
What's the appearance window?
On the far right.
Oh, is this the same thing as you had for the other stuff? So let's go into preferences on this.
You may have to zoom out or change
Jesus.
Where is preferences on this? Oh, preferences. And this probably has the same options as the other thing does. Icon scale.
Yeah.
Okay, and wait, I'm sorry.
Top menu preferences.
Top menu preferences. Okay.
Preferences.
Yep.
And then under common, the icon scale.
Yeah, it's at 75 and it's still.
Drop it lower, see what happens.
Okay.
Or higher, I don't know what.
Yep. Okay, the appearance though is still like very large blocks. So yours are smaller blocks. Like
okay, so Bob, what he's talking about is
not the icons.
Yeah, to the right of that vertical toolbar, there's the appearance, layers, objects, and nets, and it's got all the different colored blocks.
Okay, where is that?
On the far right of the screen.
Yeah, so display options under PCB editor might be there. I don't see it there.
Editing options. Ooh, show rat's nest with curved lines?
Yes, that's actually kind of helpful. It's a new feature.
Okay.
Where'd you get that? Where is that rat's nest with curved lines?
It's in editing options under PCB editor. It didn't seem to make any change to what I'm doing right now, but
it will when you come out. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so yeah, my icons are really large. Not icons, but appearance squares.
Let's go back to comments. Maybe it's.
Can you right click? Yeah, I don't remember seeing the problem that Kevin's having. Can you right click over in that area and does it give you an option to? Not from the preferences tab, but from the actual display.
Oh yeah, look at the curves. That's pretty.
Yeah, it's a little more. It's a little easier to.
I guess I'll just deal with it. It's just different from Bob's. And
it's different in what way, Kevin?
So they're really big squares butt up against each other, where you have some space between them.
What kind of display are you on?
Just a regular display.
Is it a laptop?
Yeah, laptop.
Is it a shitty laptop?
No, it's a pretty good one. And I even moved it to different screens and then getting the same thing.
What is your resolution set to?
Does your laptop have one of those under Windows magnify options. Like,
Are you using a large print laptop, Kevin?
That could be it, but the,
I actually think he is.
everything else matches though, except for that. That's I'll just deal with it. It doesn't seem like you have an arrow there. Does that expand open like on the far right under FCU? You have an
No, that arrow indicates that he's currently if he does some operation over in his PCB,
Okay.
he'll be acting on the FCU, which is the front copper layer.
Okay.
Right below it, you'll see in green, there's the back copper layer.
Okay.
You tend to work on the front and back copper layers. You don't tend to do an awful lot on the other ones, except for the edge cut layer, which we'll get to very, very soon.
I do a shit ton on the silkscreen layer.
Because mine only doesn't have an arrow, but it has a dot. But I guess that's fine. Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Bob and I differ completely. Whereas he does a lot of the artwork within KiCad. I do almost all of my artwork in a third-party tool and then import it into KiCad.
Oh.
Which I get now, but I wouldn't do it all at once. I would still do it in elements and bring the elements in.
Yeah, and you can do elements.
Yeah.
So anyway, so back to what we're going to call is the setup of this board. So if we go to File, and I think it's
Board setup.
Board setup. There's a few cool things in here, but the most important one, there we go, that we want to just touch on right now is if we get to, I'm having to zoom in here, net classes. So under design rules, net classes. So here, if we look over in the lower right corner, it lists all the nets that we've defined. And a few of them have nice, neat little net labels, which is what Bob assigned back over in the schematic. For anything that we didn't assign a net label, we end up with these generated ones. But what's more important is the piece up at the top where it says net class, clearance, track width, via size, etc. We're going to want to use this area for two reasons. One, your board manufacturer is going to have lower limits for these. So like the narrowest net that, the narrowest trace that it can create, or the smallest via hole that it can create. So you want to make sure that at some point you go to your board fabrication house and they'll have what they call capabilities, and you'll read through those and you'll make sure that your default never goes below those numbers. But
I don't think I ever touched this for any of the badges we've done.
Yeah, because
defaults work for what we're doing.
You can actually get a bit smaller. So for instance, just for your own education here, the via size and via hole, most board manufacturers now at their default level is a 0.6 millimeter size and a 0.3 millimeter hole. Doesn't really make a big difference until you get into tight spaces on your printed circuit board. The smaller the via you can make, the closer things can get. Yeah. But what we want to talk about right now, though, is we want to talk about that 3.3 volt line. So Bob, why don't you go ahead and click the plus symbol right below where it says net class and default in the sort of upper top. Yeah, right there. And now let's give this power, PWR, or you can spell it out. You can do it any way you want. And let's give that track width a bit more space. So we don't need, it doesn't need to be huge, but let's call it, 0.35. And now we're done. So what you want to do now is you might want to assign to your 3.3 net instead of default, let's call that a power. And the same for ground. Even though we're going to do a ground fill, we don't need it, but we'll just do it now. So what we've now done is we've let all of our other traces on our board be the default size, but we've forced our 3.3 and any potential ground that we create to be a little bigger. So that's kind of helpful. And you're eventually you're going to want that because as you start running more things off of that 3.3. So for instance, you run a big display on it. That little thin trace can start to get kind of warm. So we want to make them a little bit bigger.
So I'm not able to move that, just scale that. This is another issue with my.
To scale what?
where it says default and power, like when I add plus, it's just too thin. I can't stretch it downward. It won't allow me to scroll. It's kind of frustrating.
What do you got going on your computer, Kevin?
Yeah, Kevin, not having that problem.
I know.
Is it a Windows font size issue?
It could be. It's
Have
just,
you mucked with your font size to be a non-default?
I might have had the magnifying thing turned on, and I got to
Okay.
figure out how to turn all that off. So,
Well,
But is
while
this-
you're looking at that, I want to
Mhm.
make sure I respect everybody's time because we're already 10 minutes past the allotted time. Does anybody have any other commitments and need to leave, or can we just keep going?
Nope, let's keep going.
keep going.
Okay. I
Do
just
we
wanted
need-
to be cool about that, right?
Do we need to do this part, or is this just optional? What you just did?
I recommend it that, well, two things. I recommend that you set your default to be whatever your board manufacturer can support.
Mhm.
And then B, you create at least one additional net class for your power line. So that would be, in this case, 3.3, but also if you happen to be running a 5-volt line or a V-bus line, you probably want that to be bigger than default as well.
And yeah, like I said, I haven't done that for either of the badges, but I'm completely with Braden that we should all adopt best practices, especially in a classroom situation.
Yeah. And by the way, the reason why you haven't had any problems because you're using your default is larger than the minimums that, for instance, JLC PCB supports.
Right.
So you could, if you get into a really tight situation, your default could be smaller track widths, and you can go all the way down to whatever.
That would have
JLC
helped in a
PCB.
couple of situations with this last badge, but yeah.
Yeah. And it will become imperative if you end up doing a badge using a raw RP2040 chip, because you have so much what they call fan out, which is where you bring all those traces off the chip. There just isn't enough space on the chip to do, well, I can tell you right now, the pad on an RP2040 is only 0.2 millimeters. So you're not going to put a 0.25 millimeter trace on it.
Right. It's going to be usually. All right, Kevin, have we moved forward, or can we just gloss over this and come back to the video afterwards? Kevin still here?
I'm
Oh,
still here.
He wandered away.
He did. His chair is empty.
All right. Or maybe he just keeled over dead. All right. I hope not.
Okay.
The first
got
PCB
my-
class that killed somebody.
All right. Metal as fuck.
He's probably peeing. This is Kevin.
You had to announce that on the stream. So
I will totally forget to edit that out.
Do you want to wait for him?
I think so, because he needs to keep up.
I'm keeping up just fine in the background.
We all need our bio breaks, right?
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
Oh, he's back. Good.
I'm
Okay.
back.
So we're glossing over that, and we can come back to that on the video, right?
Mhm.
Later. So right now, hit wire on the right, or
Mhm.
route tracks. That's what we want, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
We want to make sure that the front copper is highlighted.
How do we do that?
Click on it. If it's not already highlighted with this little arrow or dot in Kevin's case. So we're on the front copper label, and we're doing route tracks, right?
Okay.
Once we do that, we go here, and you see how it snaps to that connection. It's saying, okay, you want to connect here. Click there. Now it's the only thing highlighted, and except for the other end of that potential connection. So you start moving your mouse, and just like the routing wire on the schematic, it moves with you. You can click it to sort of change direction. You click it, you'll get used to the way that it clicks to make decisions and that kind of stuff. And you can do curves on these too, but I haven't done it. So bam. And now your rat's nest went away for that connection.
Oh, yeah.
So now you have one semi-pretty line. I'm not sure why it's not red. Aren't they usually red?
Mine's red.
Mine
It-
is red as well.
Your colors are different.
Why is
'Cause,
that?
because if you actually look over in your layers, the appearance of your front copper is sort of a muted yellow.
Wonder how that happened. Did I do that?
I think it was, yeah, you might have done it, but it
Might
might
have
also
been
been
older defaults.
now or newer defaults. I don't know, but
Well, I have a freshly installed one. It's red.
Yeah, so's mine.
How do you? Oh, let's go over here. That's not the right red.
not the right red.
I can't get the color to look right, but I don't care. Good enough. There we go. Now I look more real. So let's do that with the rest of the data out to data in connections. If you zoom in, you can see which ones those are.
Mm-hmm.
They're not labeled data out, data in because we didn't put net labels on them. But we know they're not ground. We know they're not 3v3. So the opposite of Neo is going to be data out. So
Yeah.
highlight that. I mean, click on it and then drag it to the next one, right? Click on the next one, drag it to the next one. This one's going to be tricky.
Okay,
Might have
question.
my own.
Yeah, these are not lining up at all nicely. They're
Now you have to learn how to, with practice, learn how to line them up and click when you want them to move. It really takes a while to get used to that.
You can also shift them around after the fact, which I'll give you a quick
Yeah.
tip on in a minute.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Oh, we're getting close to this other one. What's going to happen? I'm going to click right here, and then click again.
Go ahead and hit it. I want to see what your setup. Okay, that's what I want to know.
see, I can't get in. I'm having terrible trouble here.
Do you want to explain it?
Yeah, I mean, like when I click on 2, I'll click on the route tracks and I'll click in the center, and the thing's just huge. And I'll
So it's again a sizing issue on your screen.
I don't know, but I can't like get inside the 4. It either goes above it or below it.
Are you on the front copper layer?
Yeah.
I've got a suggestion. If you hold Control, it will turn off snapping because sometimes it will just snap in ways that you can't really deal with.
Okay.
So if you hold Control, it'll more smoothly guide the line towards it, and then you can click to like sort of guide the line to
Well,
your next path.
the other question is Kevin, in your situation where it would not connect,
Right.
was there actually a rat's nest between those two pads on your
no,
okay.
there's-
No, that's fine. That's fine. So what that meant was back on your schematic, those pads were not wired to each other. So there's
And
an error back on your schematic that needs to be corrected.
It may be that your annotation numbers aren't in the order of placement. Where does the rat's nest from your first LED port 2 go?
to D4 4.
So I arranged them in this order because that is the order they're connected in my stuff.
Mhm.
And yours might have been different based on how you placed it on the schematic screen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's kind of willy-nilly, and it's not always intuitive how they number it. So an easy solution would be to move D2 out of the way and move D4 up there.
Okay, but then won't that affect where the placement of D4 is on the board?
You'll arrange your LEDs in the same path they are as in the schematic,
Okay.
which it might not be visible in the way that PCB design interpreted and annotated them. And I can't see your screen, so I can't say it. But if you say that D1 pin 2
Yeah.
goes to D4 pin 4,
Yeah.
then move D2 out of the way.
Yep.
Put D4 in there,
Okay.
and then you should have the rat's nest going to the right place, right?
Yep. Yep.
Where does the D4 pin 2 go?
D4 pin 2. It goes to D2.
Okay,
Pin-
so move D3 out of the way, put D2 there,
Okay.
and then you're just
Reordering
making-
you're
yeah.
just going to reorder your NeoPixels such that the rat's nests are as short as and as conveniently oriented as possible.
Okay.
And you could leave it the way it was and do it, but then routing becomes a nightmare.
So
You're
I'll add
trying to
boards.
arrange
Well-
it for simpler routing.
Yeah. Or the other option is you could go back to the schematic
Mhm.
and adjust the annotation. You can
Mhm.
edit annotation if you want, such that your LEDs were connected D1, D2, D3, D4, D5, D6.
But I could just change the labels like D4. I could change it.
No, because there's a relationship between
Wow.
the annotation on your schematic and the annotation on your PCB.
All right.
A label's a label. I could change the D2 label to anything I want. That's not going to make anything change.
Okay.
And the reason why it's important to have these annotations is because you may need to go back and change the value on, say, a capacitor,
Mhm.
but you want to make sure that capacitor C3 is still capacitor C3 over in your PCB.
Right.
So the annotation is how the schematic and the PCB maintain the correlation and the things between the symbol in the schematic and the footprint in the PCB.
Mhm.
It's the source of
So-
truth, man.
So we are looking at the footprints. That's what these diagrams are actually showing us.
Right.
Are all the little footprints. It's giving us some additional information. But all those little copper pads that are numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4, those are literally described in the footprint for the WS2812B.
We should talk about that while he's moving things around. The blue color here, I believe that's silkscreen layer, right? Front silkscreen. Let's turn it off. If we click on the eye on front silkscreen, see everything that disappears there? That's just stuff that's printed on your board. So that's the silkscreen layer, that blue color. The yellow, I believe, is that fab? Yeah, that's fab. The fab layer. The red we already know is the copper layer. We make that go away. What's the
Paste.
what is that? Paste?
Well, it's either paste or mask.
Let's see.
Oh, good. They use purple for two of them. It's probably the mask layer.
Yes, that's mask.
And it's going to be confusing for anybody. We don't need to deal with it now. Mask is the opposite of every other layer. So in this case,
Yes.
right? So in this case, we're looking at all these red things. There's literally going to be copper in all of those places. However, in the case of mask, it's any place that isn't purple will have mask. And that's just the way almost all.
I guess what's confusing is all these LEDs are out of sequence now. So I'm putting them in the way that, but then I have to go back to the PCB and change them around, or I'm just confused on all this.
No, you're just moving them around on the PCB. It doesn't affect anything else.
As long as you're not trying to change the annotation assignments D1, D2, D3, you're just physically moving them around to make wiring more convenient, then you're
Okay.
fine.
Okay,
These
but
annotations don't come into play anywhere else other than the relation between the PCB and the schematic. Your code doesn't
Okay.
care about them.
okay.
Your code cares about the order from the GPIO pin. That's why you want them in that order.
Okay, so even though I have D1, D4, D2, and then in the bottom row D5, D3, D6, it's still going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's
from
going
a
to
code.
In
be
code, yes.
Yeah, your code is going to be
All right.
based on the wiring.
All right, that's fine.
So I'll finish mine. All right, so I'm done with data, right? Now, what do I do for
Okay.
power?
Almost done with data.
Okay, I can wait.
All right, I'll hurry up. It's so finicky. I gotta leave room for both data wires the way I have it set up.
And if you notice, when I routed this one, it came really close to this one. Before it tried to, if I cross it, it tried to deviate around here. It's like, what are you trying to do? This is that
There's-
enforced distance that's in the preferences window that Braden showed us. There's an enforced distance between tracks. What is that called?
Clearance.
Clearance. And that's for electrical reasons, to keep, things from interfering with each other.
And within KiCad, there's 3 options for how traces interact with each other when you're dragging a trace. So you've got my favorite, which is nudge. Then you have, what do they call it?
Nudge meaning move the other thing that you're bumping into out of the way a little bit.
It will literally nudge the other one. So it becomes really convenient when you end up with lots and lots of traces next to each other, because nudge will keep them all stacked and just keep easing them all over, so you can squeeze that one new one in place. The least helpful is to simply highlight that it's a problem, and then it's up to you to figure out how to solve it. But you can nudge is the one I use most often, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of the one that we have currently set on Bob's machine.
Okay.
And again, that's under preferences. So if you went preference, I believe you'll see it's either that or it's under route.
While we're in here, I saw something else I kind of want to do, and that's just my preference. There's a million ways to skin this cat, and it's just one of them. I don't like the way this power line bisects the 2 rows of LEDs. So I want to run this underneath. So I will click in the power line up here and come down here and run the whole thing down here and then connect it here. And sometimes that'll make the first one disappear, and sometimes you'll have to manually delete it.
So wait, hold on. So you went through that fast. Would you do again?
This power line was going
right
here.
Yep. So did you delete that?
I did not. I clicked here in the existing power line and made a new power line down here, and as soon as I connected it, the old one disappeared.
Okay, so you
that doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does. And you'll see why I did that in a second. I mean, that's not a power line. That's a data line. Data out to data in. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm ready, by the way.
Okay. So now we'll run power. So I will run power from here.
Are we allowed to have 90-degree angles?
Yes.
Yeah, but for high-speed lines, data lines, it's advised to do 45s.
Yeah, because sometimes the electrons might bump into a wall and bad things will happen.
Okay.
Well, you end up getting noise.
So what did you do now, Bob? You clicked on 3.
So now I clicked on 3v3, and I'm routing in between these 2 pads, which can be tricky. And then click here and then drag it down to here where it wants to connect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm connecting 3v3 to the first 3v3 port of the first LED.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to do this, but this is the simplest, and you can change it later if you think of a better way. Then I go here and connect to the next one, right? And to the next one.
Man, 16 NeoPixels are surprisingly hard to wire up.
Wait until you do 300 and change.
No way, dude. So what are you doing, Bob? You're coming down from.
Yes, I'm extending that 3v3 line because they don't. All you need is for 3v3 to reach every single 3v3 port, right? And there's lots of ways to do it. This is just the way that I chose. All these 3v3s are connected together and coming out of here. So 3v3 is powering every single LED individually. For what we're doing, it doesn't matter. It will just work. For more advanced stuff, with more stuff, you might not want to do it this way.
Yep. So you'll also notice that because we created 2 different net classes, we created the default and then we created the power, and we assigned 3v3 to use the power net class, it automatically made that particular trace bigger than the other one.
Yeah. They're fatter than the signal lines for sure.
Yep.
So let me know when y'all catch up with that.
Yeah.
So, and if we were using the same WS2812s that are currently used on the Tree of Life badge and the Tarot Car badge, Bob would not have been able to route the trace through the middle of the LED.
Because the 2020 is so damn small.
Exactly.
Actually, I think I have, but not not through the side, but through the top. I think I have routed in the middle. It's tight,
Yeah.
but I don't think I would have done that with a fatter power line either.
I was going to say, that was the other thing I was going to say is when you get to, using power traces that are slightly bigger, then you got to do different things. It's not necessary here. We're using so few LEDs, but if you were to look at, say, my Loomis stick, which has got 240 LEDs on it, that thin trace would burn out with that much power running through it.
Wow.
And so what I do is I actually have the equivalent of, and Bob talked about this, I have like a bus, which is a really big fat trace, and then coming off it are smaller traces to each of the LEDs.
Are we going much beyond this today?
One more thing, and then we'll tie ground to this. And then are you getting tired?
Yeah, this is a lot.
Yeah, it is. So let's
Do you want to do
real
it
quick.
Do you want to do it as a fill, or are you going to do
I
it
do
as
want to do it as a fill, so let's do an edge. So we have a boundary for the fill. Do we need an edge for that, or can we just define the fill area? Let's make an edge.
You need an edge.
All right. So click on edge cuts
Mm-hmm.
and the square, the rectangle, and just enclose everything.
So that defines what the actual physical board will look like is by that edge cut that he just drew there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Why? I don't have a line around it. I just have it selected. A line did not.
So
So-
you select the edge cut layer from that appearance column of colors, and
edge
then he
cuts.
selected
Yep.
edge
And-
cuts. So that little caret is next to edge cuts, and then he clicked on the rectangle.
Yep.
And
And
then
then-
you click and then move. You don't drag. You just click and move.
Yep, single click, move the mouse.
All right.
And then when you click at the end, it might be a double click. Then
Yeah,
it
it
should
is.
place that rectangle.
Okay. Yeah, I see now.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to go real quick again. What's the fill? Is this one? Add a filled zone. So
Yep.
this blue Tetris piece here,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to go back to copper, right? Copper. We're going to add a fill zone. And we're going to do the same thing.
Outside of the, you want to be outside of your board trace.
Outside of the whole board?
Yep.
Okay.
So click someplace just outside your board.
All right.
Yeah, right there's good.
It says copper zone properties select. No.
Yeah, hang
Yep,
on. Let me
as-
get back to it because I got
Yeah.
sidetracked.
Yeah. So as soon as
All
you
right.
click once, it'll say, what do you want this zone to be?
Hold
And
on.
you want front copper and you want ground.
Hold on. We are flying so fast here. So
I'm sorry. That's the great thing about
FCU.
video.
Yeah. So FCU, and then you clicked on the Tetris piece, and then you're outside of the board layer,
And you single click and the dialog box will immediately pop up.
and you say ground. Okay.
And you say what copper layer you want that ground on. So he
Yep.
clicked on over in the dialog box,
Yep.
the front copper layer, and then he selected ground. And then he'll
Front
select
copper and ground.
and then he clicks OK. And now it's actually starting to draw this zone.
Okay.
And as
So
long
we're
as you,
defining the edges, the boundaries of the fill layer.
yep,
Okay.
and as long as you don't have to be very accurate with it, as long as you stay outside of your board area.
All right.
And so he'll click there, he'll click there.
And as you draw the corners, it starts to fill in with a different color to let you know what's going to be covered. And you can just double click when you're done.
Okay. And then
And so it's now going to take the combination of, I want to fill this whole area with copper designated as the ground. And I'm going to contain that within my board outline. So now if he does a fill command,
Which is right click. yeah.
it's a B.
Yeah.
this
Okay.
is where
So you can either
shortcuts-
hit B or you could right click and then fill all zones if you want to be explicit about what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, I
You see what it did there?
Yeah. I got to start over. So the first one was the edge. What was the first one? Edge cuts.
So yeah, so the first thing we did is we select the edge cuts layer and then a rectangle.
Right.
and then we single click somewhere in the upper left, and we drag the rectangle, and then we double click for the lower right.
Okay. And then you go to,
Then we wanted to put a fill within that edge cut, so we went back to the copper layer,
yeah,
and then the fill icon, which is the blue little Tetris piece,
and that's inside that or outside?
You
outside.
started outside the fill the edge cuts.
And you select ground. Okay,
Front copper should already be selected if that's the layer you're working in.
yeah,
You should hit ground to select which net you want this fill to connect to, and then okay.
okay, and then it's, and then you.
And now
And then
you're
just start
drawing a
dragging.
square around the drawing a rectangle around the rectangle.
And
And it
just-
doesn't have to be precise because everything outside the box is going to be discarded.
Okay,
Yes, exactly.
okay, and then you.
Double
you-
click to close it.
And then you
Yeah.
filled it with what?
And then you hit B or right click on the Tetris and fill all zones.
Okay,
Now this just made me think of something. I might want to.
did you get a ground in there? Because I'm 3.3.
What do you mean?
My 3.3s didn't carry over for whatever reason. All right, I'll worry about that later.
What do you mean?
I guess my 3.3 lines never saved for whatever reason.
So you're saying your 3.3 is not connected to the LEDs?
No,
Okay, so you probably just want to back out the last couple things you did,
yeah.
or back out. You don't even have to back it out, really.
Mhm.
I could fill all zones, right? Like I just did. If you route your 3.3 here to whatever, make sure that it connects now, and then
To
fill all
the-
zones again, it'll fix it.
Okay, I have to go above.
Yeah. You can also leave your fill zone rectangle, but remove the fill itself. I tend to, if I have to do a bunch of rerouting,
Oh, unfill all zones? Yeah.
I do an unfill, and then
Control
I do
B.
my routing, and then I do a refill. Yeah, and you can just keep bouncing back and forth between these two.
B.
So
Control
Bob, I see a mistake in our schematic,
Okay.
which is now carried over to this, which is we never assigned the ground label to the ground pin of our Pico.
We did on one, but not all of them. And I was looking at that too. Yeah, I would like to go back to the schematic and assign all of them.
Which one did we do? Because I didn't see where it was connecting.
38.
So do B.
See?
Oh, you're right. There it is. It's a little line on that one.
Yeah. I mean, you can see the rat's nest too. So
Are you now doing ground? Is that what my understanding is?
No. I
No,
was just saying that because the Pico board has multiple pins that are marked as ground,
Mhm.
right? In the
8 of 'em.
schematic, we wanted to label them all ground so that when we do a fill here, they all actually get connected to ground. But since we didn't do that, if Bob will do the fill again, now if we zoom in, we'll see that pin 38 is connected to ground. But
so
if
that
we were to
fill area, this is all copper fill,
Right.
and there's a trace going from the fill area to this pin, and it can't get any closer because then the ground would be touching all the other pins.
Okay.
But if we
Okay.
looked at one of the other pins on the Pico that was
One of the
that
other
was
grounds?
also named ground, like over on the top left corner
Here's one. Here's one.
somewhere,
Here's
Yeah.
one.
because
Here's one.
we didn't add the net label to those. PCB doesn't actually know that they're actually really a ground, and so it doesn't connect them to anything.
Now I'm going to breeze through this real quickly because I can while anybody's doing anything else. I'm going to go back over to the schematic
Mhm.
and add those labels because it's easy, right? I don't know what A ground is. Is that analog?
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that to be separate?
Yes.
So
And are you going to tell us what it is?
No.
Okay.
So what are you doing exactly right now, Bob?
I am adding net labels to the other ground pins so that the other ground, you don't have to follow along with this. It's just so that all of the ground pins will be connected on the PCB.
Good idea.
Yes, very good idea.
The more
There's one
ground, the
more.
better. Ground is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, you missed one. Pin 42, bottom
42,
center.
where's that?
Bottom center.
Oh, wow. Does that even count?
Yes.
I've never connected anything to those things.
Oh, you're talking about the debug wires?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So all those are connected. Now we go back over to PCB and update PCB.
Hold on. Let's see.
You don't have to be following along. I just wanted to do this real quick.
All right.
And now the rat's nest extends to all the ground pins.
You got to do your fill again.
Yeah. So I'll hit B to fill again, and it updates.
So,
Yep.
okay, so what'd you do again? I'm back here, so and you went to. What were the
You want to
steps
do what I just did?
Yeah,
Okay. So are you in schematic?
yeah, I already did that in schematic. I already created the grounds.
Okay. So you go over here to update
Yeah.
PCB with changes from schematic.
Where are you at? Let me see. Update PC. Okay, yep.
And it should tell you a bunch of things about reconnecting.
Update PCB.
Yeah.
Okay, and close. Okay.
And now if you do your fill again, it should connect all those grounds. So when you zoom in on it, you see there's a
yeah.
trace there. There's a trace there. So all your grounds are connected now. Just makes a stronger ground.
Okay.
And all your stuff's not relying on one ground. So if you scratch it off, you don't screw it up.
Right.
You've never done that, Bob.
I've never done that that you know of.
Oh, some of the grounds aren't connecting on my PCB.
Are they not completely connected in schematic? Like, do you have a square showing that the wire connection is not being made?
I'm not
In-
sure, but I can visually confirm that it's not connected at all.
Okay, so in here,
Yeah, zoom way in and then
Mhm.
drag that. If you were
Sorry,
to,
I mean in the PCB editor, not the layout.
right, but your PCB is tied to this. So if it's not connecting there, it's probably because it's not connected correctly here. So if you see a square in your anchor for your ground and it doesn't disappear because it's connected to a pin, it's not connected. So it has to be connected here to be connected on PCB. So this is how you troubleshoot. If something's not connected on the PCB, you find that exact connection here and find out whether it's connected here. This circle or square, right, means that this pin is not connected to anything.
I think I've connected all of the grounds. Yeah,
Okay,
there we go.
back to PCB.
I think it's because of how I laid out the NeoPixels.
oh, do you have a situation where your NeoPixels are so close together that a ground pin on one of your see how, let's use as an
Ground
example.
plane can't reach the ground
It-
pin.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah, that's an issue.
That's an issue. Yep. So if you were to zoom in, Bob, on your D1, D2, D4, D5, right? So just that one area,
Mhm.
Yeah,
you'll notice that ground fill it's not sneaking. Like if we look at D4, right? The ground doesn't quite sneak past from the upper to the lower, but it
same
does.
here.
Yeah. So hold it then. Oh, I see where, but see, it's getting the ground because that area is touching the ground pad.
It's coming
the
from
ground-
down here.
See, I've
Yeah.
got empty grounds. I've got empty grounds all over the place.
I should have made some empty grounds so we could learn how to deal with that.
Well, like
Well, you have one big one.
yeah,
That's
but
what
for
that's what she
instance,
said.
like on your D4 or whatever, like that's empty. Like the 3 on D4, it's empty. It doesn't connect to anything.
Where are you saying that?
The ground on D4, it's just it doesn't connect to other ground, does it?
It's connecting to the ground plane.
So if you
Oh.
zoom way in, you'll actually notice that, yeah, there we go, right? You can actually see that the fill crisscrosses it.
Oh, okay.
Does it not do that on yours?
Yeah, it's just a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot, and it takes some time to learn it. And I should have thrown more errors into this because it's more important to learn how to fix the errors than to learn how to do it right. Right.
Mhm.
So say that this ground was orphaned or island and it couldn't. What would I do about that?
Right.
One thing I could do is I could make a wire, and we haven't talked about this yet, but I could bring it over to here, and then right-click there, place through via. Right? If I click on that, then it turns green. What's it doing? It's putting a trace on the back side, on the back copper level.
Yep.
So then
So-
you'd do another via right there and click that and double click it. And now you've connected this ground to this ground plane.
So Bob, undo that for a second. I'm going to talk about one that's even more common than that. So let's assume for a moment that pad 3 there was not a ground, and so it wasn't connecting through. And you'll notice that the ground plane, the pour that Bob did from the upper left to the lower doesn't quite match, right? So there's a little tiny gap between it. If we wanted that fill to actually continue through there, all Bob would really have to do is just nudge that 3v3 line a little bit. So he could drag that down just a tiny bit.
This one.
And
How did you do that? What did you click
Okay.
on it? And
So you move your cursor to the corner, it'll snap to a corner,
yeah.
and then you hit G.
Okay. You didn't say that.
No, I'm telling you that now. And that G means drag. So you're dragging that corner. And sometimes that works, and sometimes something will get in the way. It'll tell you if it's getting in the way.
so another option, if I undo that, Bob,
Okay.
is in the 45 slope, put the mouse over that and hit D instead of G. And now pull that, and it will actually maintain that.
Oh, look at that. Okay.
And now click there.
So that was D, and then I'm just dragging it to the side there.
Yep. And now redo your fill. So hit B, and
Yeah.
see, now it all connects together.
That's a nice way to do it.
And this becomes important because when you get more complex, you get lots of traces running. There'll be lots of data lines.
I think I would want to do the same thing here.
Yep, exactly. You'll end up with lots of data lines that start to break up your ground plane, and you'll end up with all sorts of places where the ground doesn't connect. And you can drop vias, but in a lot of cases, you can nudge a trace just a little bit, and it'll allow the ground pour to sneak past.
And vias come with a cost, right? It's a tiny cost, but it's a cost.
Yeah, and it there's all sorts of reasons. I will say, when we get to sort of a more advanced class and we talk about vias, this is where knowing your keyboard shortcuts are going to come in very handy, because with just the keyboard, you can run an entire trace with vias embedded in it, all that, without having to move your mouse over to menus. You literally just keep doing the trace.
What is the keyboard trace connection command for a via?
So let's use as an example.
Say I wanted to connect this ground to this ground.
Yeah. So
The purpose of a via, because we didn't talk about this, is you're making a trace and it can't cross another trace on the same layer.
Yeah.
So a via puts a hole in the board, a copper hole in the board, and routes your trace, your connection, through that hole to the opposite side of the board, so that
Literally,
you can cross.
yeah. Literally, it's you're running your trace via another layer, and then you come back.
Yeah.
So Bob, clear out your copper pour for a minute. There we go. So start a trace from that location.
Wire.
Let's do it all with keyboard. So hit the escape key so you're not in
Okay.
track mode.
So W for wire.
Nope. X.
Nope. S.
X.
X.
It
Of
used
course.
to be W. It's now X. Okay. So now hit V and click, and now drag. Come to the other side. Hit V again and click, and now drag. And there you go.
Okay. Do you guys, Kevin and Display, do you understand what just happened here?
You ran it to the back of the board.
Yes.
Yeah. And we'll repeat this many, many times during the class.
Front to
Because-
here, turn to the back, go behind this front trace that we can't cross.
Yep.
And there's like, if you look on the Tarot badge, there's so many of these because I put the Pico underneath the display, and there's so many routing decisions that had to be made there that there's a lot of things crossing paths.
Right.
Yeah. So Bob, if you were to zoom all the way out on your board, right? So if the Pico were right up close to that left edge of the board, there really would be no way to route off of those left side pins. So what you might do is you might actually run them under the board and then via to the bottom and then come out the other side. So there's reasons for using via, especially when your board gets more complex.
Yep.
But this board was easy enough. We didn't have to use vias for anything. And over time, we'll get into them. One thing that you want to get in the habit of doing, and we'll just leave the via there. So Bob, if you zoom in a little bit on D4, right? As a general rule, you don't want right angles on any traces, even power traces. So what we would do in this case is if we were to grab the vertical piece of that ground wire and hit D for drag, and now go to the left, there we go. What we've now done is we've now got a 45 on that into the ground. And so we don't have that right angle anymore.
So, Bob, the KiCad files of the tarot and the Tree of Life badge, are they available online?
They're not in a public place, but I could certainly give you access to them.
Okay.
Yeah, it would help me as well to really get a better understanding of this.
I don't think it would. I think it throws too much in your face, and you need to take these things one step at a time.
I was
Well,
wondering.
I think in Kevin's situation, a lot of the confusion would go away if we could figure out why his display is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll work on that. I'll see if I can get that fixed up for next time.
Braden, I think you missed the beginning of the class where I promoted this book.
I'm not. I never learned anything from a book.
No, it's not. It's not a teaching book. It's a picture book.
Oh,
And it's cross sections of components.
oh God.
Yeah, it's component porn.
Oh, it's
I
so
used to follow a guy. He's mostly on Instagram. He's a little bit on Twitter. He has he now uses a chemistry microscope for going all the way in and finding the original die of a chip. Like he decaps the chip and gets all the way down to the wafer.
Yeah.
And he can zoom in so far that he can actually find, like, you know, the gentleman that designed the chip signed it, and he'll find the signature. And a lot of them have, you know, little characters and goofy little things that are buried in the wafer.
Wow.
So is your ground, we didn't hook up ground, but I guess it's automatically hooked up?
That's what the ground fill does. It's a ground pour. It basically says you like for Tree of Life, I use traces for ground. For tarot, I use the ground pour, which means everything that's not already a trace is now ground. So everything that has a ground connects to it that way. And you find out at the end whether that worked by running DRC, Design Rules Checker. So if I run DRC now, it'll tell me if anything's not connected, right? I think we know everything's connected, but let's.
I got 0 errors, 0 warnings.
Very good.
Okay.
There you go.
Now that doesn't mean your board's going to work.
That just means it functions as designed, it looks like it's supposed to.
Yeah, it's the board has been wired to match the schematic.
Right.
Okay.
You could still be wrong.
Do you think this is a good place to break? This is a lot of information.
I think it is. I think we ran it twice as long as I intended to, and now I'm going to have to struggle to figure out where we're going to start next week. But I think this is good, like basic, and it's great that we went into a lot of the keyboard things because I'm not familiar with the keyboard, and it will make it easier for me.
My recommendation actually is we repeat a lot of this without doing any of the install and validating people's install. You know, we quickly lay out a few components in the schematic. and we then route them very quickly. But, you know, Bob, if you want, you and I can kind of chat about what would be a real design that we use for doing that, so that we end up with a couple of those examples you talked about where you have to use a VIA, or, you know, you have to do something, you have to fix a bug in it.
My intent was for today to be all about navigating, and we'd start with what they breadboarded last week, next week, but we can abandon that. And I think I like what you're saying. And anybody that needs to catch up can watch the recording. And Kevin, please fix your font size issue before next week so that you can keep up easier.
I got to figure out how to do it because
Yeah.
I'm at I'm at 100% magnification, which is normal. So I'll look into it.
Okay. Maybe Google, maybe other people have had that problem
Yeah.
and they'll shed some light on it.
It's only with this program, so it's got to be some configuration, but I'll figure it out.
Okay. Cool. So we break now?
Yeah.
I think we're good to break.
Oh yeah.
This is good stuff. This is good stuff. I guess I'll see you all next week then.
Sounds like a plan.
And I'll
See you next
save my
week.
progress here so that we can come back to it next week.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
All right.
Thanks. Especially thanks, Braden. That was very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, at
Yeah,
some
thank
point.
you, Braden.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I can get into all sorts of, this is how you fix this bug, this is how you fix this mistake, because I make a lot of them.
We should go into a lot of the mistakes that are common, and you know,
I've made 2 or 3 on this this new RP 2040 prototype board.
does it work?
Well, I've got some mistakes to fix.
Okay. All right. I am shutting the meeting down, and I'll put the recording up tomorrow.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right,
Sounds
later, guys.
great.
Later.
Bye-bye.